Recently there's been an influx of rumors that magnet warriors are bad. This is fake news and I'll show you how. First you summon Alpha the Magnet Warrior, then you summon Beta the Magnet Warrior, and then you summon Gamma the Magnet Warrior. Then Valkyrie the Magnum Warrior. You destroy Sagi the Dark Clown. Nice monster, Yugs, it's surely gonna distract people from your freaky Bayonetta legs. Why do you have such long legs, Yug? Compensating? When someone says Yugi's or even Yami's deck, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Most people would understandably go with Dark Magician. Give them a little more time though and they'll remember Gaia, BLS, Chimera, Celtic Guardian, Poker Knights, Gadgets, Kuribo, and all the other crap Kazuki Takahashi came up with when reasonable card consistency wasn't a marketing concern. One part of his schizophrenic monster lineup were the Magnet Warriors, a trio of rock-type monsters with decent stats for the 18 years ago when they were released, and with visual designs that matched the detail and fluidity of the most high-end 80s CGI animation. Around 2 years ago, they officially became an archetype due to a wave of legacy support, so let's see how they hold up after almost 2 decades of presence in the game. Well, for the majority of the archetype, you probably already know the answer. We start off with the original trilogy, Alpha, Beta, and Gamma the Magnet Warriors. They're all level 4 Earth rock types, Alpha having 1400 attack and 1700 defense, Beta having 1700 attack and 1600 defense, and Gamma having 1500 attack and 1800 defense. How does Alpha see anything? He's got a thing on his face. Maybe that's why his attack is the lowest. As I said, these were decent attack and defense values back in July of 2000, even though Gemini Elf was already a thing by that point. There's really not much else to add here. Even in the most ideal build, you generally don't want to stock up on too many of these, given their surprising lack of synergy with the rest of the archetype. Guess opposites don't attract after all. Paulo Abdul, how could you do this to me? However, their flavor text points out something interesting. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma meld as one to form a powerful monster, and therein arrives Valkyrie the Magnum Warrior. It's a level 8 with 3500 attack and 3850 defense and the following effect. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing 1 Alpha, Beta, and Gamma the Magnet Warriors from your hand and or field. You can tribute this card, then target 1 Alpha, Beta, and Gamma the Magnet Warrior in your graveyard, special summon them. This is obviously no ABC, it's really more like an SHIT. I appreciate that it lets you tribute the materials from the hand as opposed to just the field, because otherwise would just make it a really shitty contact fusion monster that has no place being in the main deck. However, other than the gargantuan stats, there's not much going on here. Was it really necessary for the defense to be higher and so specific? Who are you gonna defend against, Barbara or Sword? The effect is borderline silly. I mean, I wouldn't expect a quick effect defusion to be a thing in 2000, but I'm just left wondering what was the intended usage of this ability other than aesthetic flair. The only thing I can think of is getting free tribute materials, but I'm pretty sure they had access to better tribute engines 18 years ago than freaking Valkyrie Turbo. The best thing about this card is that it's the absolute essential target for Dark Gaia Turbo to potentially get it over 8000 attack. Running it in a Magnet Warrior focus deck can occasionally pay off, but it's way too gimmicky to count. Around 16 years later, in the revised Yugi Muto structure deck, which was essentially just a $10 nostalgia box, we were introduced to Alpha, Beta, and Gamma the Electromagnet Warriors. Unlike the originals, they're level 3, Alpha has 1700 attack and 1100 defense, Beta has 1500 attack and defense, and Gamma is a chunky boy with 800 attack and 2000 defense. They all share an effect segment, that being, during your opponent's turn, you can tribute this card, special summon 1 level 4 Magnet Warrior monster from your deck. Also, each of them have effects that activate when they're normal or special summoned. Alpha lets you add a level 8 Magnum Warrior from your deck to your hand, Beta lets you add a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior from the deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, and Gamma lets you special summon a level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your hand, except itself. All of these effects can only be used once per turn. So ever since Gorgonic Guardian became a thing, level 3 kind of became the essential rock type gimmick, mainly due to them not really having one by that point. This is pretty much the only reason I can think of as to why the retrains are level 3 as opposed to 4, as annoying as it is from a gameplay perspective. You could bring up Transmodify as an argument, but they already have that kind of effect by themselves, admittedly limited to the opponent's turn for some reason. Their individual effects are very basic. It's the usual boring surge/special summon consistency boosting, which is not necessarily bad, just a bit uninspired. Beta is usually the one you want to max out on, followed by varying ratios of Alpha and Gamma depending on how much you value the level 8s and mediocre swarming. A somewhat neat aspect of their Magnet Warrior special summon effects is that they turn Topologic Bomber Dragon into a quick field nuke, especially if you have Block Dragon on the field to protect your monsters. Speaking of which, depending on the size of your deck, you usually want to run 2 to 3 of these due to their fantastic destruction protection as well as recovery. Some other generic pieces of support to keep in mind are Sentry Soldier of Stone for more recovery, Doki Doki for the graveyard and field setup, Gemini Obsidian as the Brilliant Fusion fusion target, and Ties of the Brethren to help out with the searching and setup. Again, these are not necessarily bad retrains, it's just that they're kinda underwhelming when compared to the ABC lineup which came out at the same time. This extends to their boss monster, Berserk Eon, the Electro Magnum warrior. Berserk Eon? It's a level 8 with 3000 attack and 2800 defense and the following effect. Cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first be special summoned from your hand by banishing one alpha, beta and gamma the electromagnet warrior from your hand, graveyard and or face up from your monster zone. You can banish one level 4 or lower magnet warrior monster from your graveyard, then target one card your opponent controls, destroy it. If this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target one each of your banished alpha, beta and gamma the electromagnet warrior, special summon them. This was just a bit of a slap in the face after seeing ABC Dragon Buster. Sure, it looks way cooler than the Chinese knockoff Lego Dragon, but it's not nearly as practical. The summoning condition is not too bad given the amount of searching going on, but it's still a main deck level 8 semi-Nomi monster. The destruction effect cost is pretty baffling given that you already banished a bunch of magnets on summoning the thing and it's not even a quick effect, all coming down to its floating effect being the best thing about the card. If you get it off, you're likely to get a decent plus off of the magnet warrior effects, which you can proceed to make more plays with, unless they're destroyed before you can do that. Berserk Eon is a clunky thing with little real practicality as a boss monster, but it's worth relying on for some potential removal as well as the floating effect. Helping out in said regard is their last main deck monster, Delta the Magnet Warrior. As opposed to a retrain, it's an evolved continuation of the original lineup, being level 4 and having the following effect. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can banish 3 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters from your graveyard except Delta, special summon one Valkyrie, the Magnum Warrior from your hand or deck, ignoring its summoning conditions. You can only use each effect of Delta the Magnet Warrior once per turn. I find it funny that this was their latest release support card, as if it took them a few months to understand that the level 4 vanillas weren't actually the most optimal things to summon on your opponent's turn. Delta easily sets up the graveyard for a Berserk Eon summon, and even incentivizes running Valkyrie due to speeding up his summon process. That's not to say you usually want to run Valkyrie, and some of the more competitive builds really don't like Delta, but I can't help but feel some childish joy when I ram Delta into something and float into a 3500 beater. If anything, more Magnet Warriors means more reasons to run Magnet Reverse, so have fun with that. As for the Magnet Warrior equivalent to A to Z Dragon Buster canon, as in the archetypal where the hell did this come from, we have Imperial Magnum the Superconductive Battlebot. God, I love that name. It's a level 10 fusion with 4000 attack and defense, requires Valkyrie and Berserk Eon as materials, must be fusion summoned with those fusion materials and cannot be special summoned by other ways. Once per turn during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a spell or trap card or monster effect, you can negate the activation and if you do, destroy that card. If this face-up card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon both one Valkyrie on the Magnum Warrior and one Berserk Eon the Electro Magnum Warrior from your hand and or deck, ignoring their summoning conditions. Yeah, this is literally just Quasar. How far we've come that 4000 attack and a once per turn negate and destroy anything effect is now a property on a 2 main deck material fusion monster. And while we're on that topic, I would not necessarily call it worth running in a dedicated Magnet Warrior deck. They don't have an archetypal fusion card to help out with bringing this thing to the field, so if you want to bust it out, you're usually forced to build an entire deck around it, focusing on stuff like Fusion Conscription, Fusion Reserve and even Dark Calling for the Dark Gaia option. If you try mashing it into a regular Magnet Warrior deck, you're usually left with an inconsistent pile of crappy rocks and slimy fusion. However, all of this just amounts to 1 negation and destruction per turn as well as floating into beaters upon effect removal, making it prime kaiju bait if I've ever seen one. As far as Imperial Magnum goes, you either go all out with it, or you don't go at all. To rub the salt into the ABC inflicted wound, we have their field spell, Magnetic Field. If you control a level 4 or lower Earth Rock type monster, you can target one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use this effect of Magnetic Field once per turn. Once per turn at the end of the damage step, when an Earth Rock type monster you control battled an opponent's monster but the opponent's monster was not destroyed by that battle, you can return that opponent's monster to the hand. As opposed to being a ridiculously versatile play enabler on the level of Union Hangar, Magnetic Field is a pair of broken down training wheels at best. Depending on your graveyard setup, the first effect either does absolutely nothing of significance or manages to put in just enough work to make a decent play, and I'll give it credit, it works while non-Magnet Warrior rock monsters are on the field, and the second effect is, for the lack of a better word, stupid. It's a last resort option in case you're forced to rely on your remaining Magnet Warriors in the field in the face of the opponent's incoming barrage of attacks before you try and make a comeback next turn. Even then, the card is prone to removal as much as the mentioned Magnet Warriors. It's worth running 1 or 2 of them for the first effect, effect, but don't cry when it inevitably pops before doing anything, like the dollar store condom that it is. The final Magnet Warrior card is Magnet Conversion, a normal trap with the following effect. Target up to 3 level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters in your graveyard, add them to your hand. During either player's turn, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and target one of your banished level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior monsters, special summon it. And I guess it's got good intentions, but you're really just better off playing cards like Pot of Acquisitiveness, Burial from a Different Dimension, or even Release from Stone if you want banish recovery, mainly due to them not being limited to Magnet Warriors and offering different types of utility. You can try it out, I'm not gonna stop you, I'm just not a fan. Let's evaluate how strong the magnetic forces are in here. Consistency is mainly supported by Alpha and Beta, as well as their interactions with Doki Doki and Block Dragon, and while there's good swarming potential, the deck periodically results in horrible bricks, so it gets a 3. Power gets a 2 due to their only source of decent removal and high attack values being monsters that don't tend to hit the field very often, and giving recovery a generous 3 due to potential amazing floating, which again relies on some fairly specific plays. Protection gets a 1 due to its only source being Block Dragon. Versatility gets a 3 due to a decent level of potential build variety, including fusion, triamid, generic earth spam, etc. As a bonus, they can run Giant Soldier of Steel to completely shut down Trickstars, which is always a plus in my book. Here's my current Magnum Warrior centric build, with Gigantes being used as nearly free Xyz and Link material, and with the 2 vanillas essentially being ammo for Berserk Eon. Here's Grant Williams' 60 card Magnet Warrior Earth Spam, which recently got 9th place on a 300 person regional, courtesy of House of Champs. And here's a quickly mashed together Imperial Magnum Turbo with Dystopia the Despondent as their Gaia material. Water, fire, air and dirt. Magnet Warriors, they barely work. I guess the intention behind the new support was to make them similar to the ABC bunch from the Kaiba box, but different enough to matter, and the difference they went for seems to be in the astronomical leap in quality between the two. Besides awkward main deck fusion and banishing shenanigans, banish shenanigans if you will, Magnets ended up having very little unique qualities to make them stand out as anything more than a mediocre pet deck, which is a bit sad given the underrepresentation of rock types in the game, but at least the level of versatility the Magnets possess makes them decently fun for experimentation and leaves them patiently waiting for potential amazing rock type support in the future.
Hey everyone, I'm Ojama Lime, and I hijacked Rank 10's upload to promote my new Magnatubing channel, Magna capital T. If you look over here, I made this out of the remains of Gear Town. It's called the Yoja Magnet. I named it myself. Anyway, let's turn it on. Wow, it's really loud! It's supposed to do something now. Is it broken? Hello? Oh hey, I'm in Detroit.
Hello everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Archetype Archive. The Duelist of the Roses stream is finally happening next week, which you will be promptly notified of. Remember to pledge to the Patreon if you want to join the Discord or request an Archetype Archive. Have fun, don't screw around with magnets, nobody knows how that works, it's black magic basically. I'll see you next time.